Today's show, lots of riders, commenters, and directors do not like racing gravel. Will their fears come true? Which GC rider will have the trouble and lose his Tour de France bid, if any? Which team was the most impressive and which tactics did not make sense? Will the break stay away? Is gravel racing here to stay in the Tour de France? This is the 111th edition of the Tour de France, Stage 9, Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 352, right now.
Massive number of people have been upgrading. Yes,
there you go. You see the great balloon that you were talking about before.
The race we've got yet again, and a victor then goes victory to an American, Andy Hampton.
The felt to go by. He looks at the Colombian rider. How are you doing?
Straight past Santiago Patero, and he's coming up to Pantani.
Armstrong is sitting in the first last few hundred meters as we come towards the finish of this monumental stage. And
as we start to approach the line now, Pantani grits his teeth and accelerates and over the line.
Is going now to win stage number 15. Sepp Kuss, an emotional finish from Durango in the USA. Sepp Kuss wins.
Welcome, everybody. This is Tyler Yonke, Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 352. We're talking about Stage 9. It's Trois, 199 kilometers. Of course, with neutral zone and the cool down, it's over 200. Good long day in the saddle, and it was expected to be exciting, and I don't think it disappointed. Now, there's a lot of comments out there. I'm watching other shows, I'm listening to other things, I'm seeing interviews after the race. Some people are not at all interested in this gravel, that being kind of like Lance Armstrong. He's one, he's saying nope, has no place at the Tour. I listened to TJ Van Garderen, was very expressive on that in the booth this morning for Peacock. There were other, Jonas said so after the fact. I know Ralph Aldeg and a few of those others. Victor, welcome. Tyler Yonke is live. Yes, welcome, Victor C. So there were definite people that were pushing against us. Now, I think this is a much better venture and display and more in excitement than the cobblestones. That's always exciting, and it's still something we do in cobblestones in the Tour. It's been there. I find this better, and I find it better for a few reasons. One, it has similar effects. You can have climbs instead of, like you have Strada Bianca, climbs instead, but it's not as detrimental as some of the cobbles can be as well. So it's not as big of a risk, yet it's still there, and it was exciting from start to finish. We had some action going on the whole way. Hang on, I just want to add one little thing in here. It's in my thing, and then we'll get going. We talked about. Hang on, I'm sorry. This was a last minute addition that I wanted to do here. Boom, there we go. Okay, so let's get up to the race in effect here and talk about exactly what happened today. And me personally, I got up nice and early, and I watched the race. Now, when I woke up and I started seeing it, they were going into the gravels. So here you go. Here's the race for today. And by the way, I was completely wrong, and I'll break this a little bit down here as far as yesterday. I was trying to read on the Pro Cycling Stats. There are sections, each gravel section, and how much distance there was. And they were showing them within meters. And maybe it was the climbing that they were showing, but it was a few hundred meters. And I'm like, okay, You're not really, yeah, like these 335, 363, but they were showing them in these sections, and I thought it was the gravel section, but that's not what it was. Let's start here. This is this is the GC going into today. Pogačar, 33 seconds over Remco Evenepoel, 115 over Jonas Vingegaard, and 136 over Primoz. Ayuso at 216. We've talked about this before, but I just wanted to get a kind of a lay of the land. Top 20 there. Gall down there in 18th place. Derek G in 14th. Ciccone in 13th. Just giving you some ideas of Vlasov there in 10th. That makes it a somewhat important info for the day as well. Okay. That was that one. Then we had the KOM, Abrahamson, Jonas Abrahamson, 33 points over Tade and 20. Madwa, Valentin, 16, 15 down there to Jonas, Remco at 12. Just giving you an idea of where we are coming into the. Thanks you, Victor, for liking this. Okay. So here's the gravel sections for today. I took a screenshot because this is actually what they are. 2,000. So there's 2K for the first one, 900 meters, and much more. And so total is what is it? 32. And this is I took it along the way here. Unpaved sections left in the race, but there were 32.5 kilometers of gravel sections total in the race. So I was completely wrong about that yesterday, but not too much, right? It's not enough to get a gravel bike as an example. They just basically maybe rode a little bit wider tires, had more resources out on the road along the way, preparing for this kind of stuff. But you can see that 2 kilometers, then 9, and then under a kilometer, 1.4 kilometers, 3.3 kilometers, 4.6, 2.2, 4, 2.2, 11, 1.1, sorry, 1.9, 1.8, 1.9, 2.2, and 3 kilometers. So the longest one they have here is 4.6, sector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have some big ones kind of in the middle there, some nasty ones. And some of those had climbs and some of them didn't. Okay. Started the race. There was Andre Dredge. He was a Norwegian cyclist. He died yesterday in the Tour of Austria. So they commemorated him today with Uno X, which is mostly a Norwegian team. Pretty sad to hear. Once more, another tragedy, downhill racing. And when you're talking about safety and you're worried about all these things, like, people have been dying. They're not dying on gravel roads. They're not dying on cobblestones. They're dying on fast descents. So do we take the mountains out of this race, or do we take the gravel and the cobblestones? See, I'm fine with moving things along, making changes, making your sport a little more exciting. You may not like it, but that's where it's trending. And the gravel is a situation that's trending towards. And there we have it. And it was exciting all day today. And I actually loved it. Okay. Gravel Pro, Victor says Gravel Pro cycling athletes ran the route and got off their bikes. We will show some pictures of that. Yes, maybe. No, we would definitely will. Okay. There you go. They started. So as soon as the flag was dropped already, I don't know if the Victor Campenarts, but the Lotto team is already up there. Abrahamson is up there as well. EF gets Rui Costa, Bissinger up there. You had Little Trek going out up the road as well. It was quite a nightmare of trying to get a group up the road. In the end, up until the first sector here, you finally get something established, which is Nilsson Palace is up the road. Derek G is up the road. Stuyvens. I'm trying to remember who the Jayco rider was. Turgis is up there. You had 2 movie star riders. Albacini, I think, for Astana. So they get up the road and they start doing, you can see 20-second gap on the main riders as they come into section 1 of the first gravel section you're going to get in the Tour de France, and they hit the gravel. Now, as soon as they hit the gravel, you got Ben Healy and Pidcock. They decide they're going to try to make the break and get up the road. Now, between this break happening, there was some stupid stuff happening as well. EF, I'm not always sure what they're doing. Sometimes it's like, are they just throwing everything against the wall and they're going to get a break up the road? Sometimes they're chasing each other down. Bissinger's doing that. Bettiel's doing that. At this point, Ben Healy's going up the road with Pidcock. Now, you have your teammate up there, Nilsson Palace. If you're not confident in him, this is not necessarily a bad move, but you're bringing a guy that's won Amstel Gold. He's a mountain bike champion. He's done daring descents down it was the Galibier and then up to the Alpe d'Huez to win a few years ago. He's deadly. So he tried to hang on to Liège 2 years ago to Remco. He is deadly, and I don't know that you necessarily be wanting to be working with him, but that's the way it is. In that little section there, you ended up having Nilsson Palace falling off that front group, as a matter of fact, helping Pidcock come up to the front with Ben Healy. I don't know that I feel that that's a good move to be doing. Once again, you're taking 2 of your riders, you're bringing him up. Now you're dropping Nilsson Palace back to make sure this is happening. It actually rode Nilsson out of this break, doing this work, I believe. And then you've got Pidcock up in the front, and we'll see which rider does better. Does Pidcock win? Does Healy win? Is this a right play to do for, because anything Healy can do, Pidcock can do, and then a little bit better, which is sprint. So that's one aspect. Okay, they come into the first section. They've got, did I skip over here? Because I wanted to come into the sections here. I think the first section was fine. You had Bora on the front. They put Primoz right up front, looked very good. Coming into the second time here at 1:30.8 to go. DeLee is trying to make this move. He and Mahoric, they're in the middle, trying to make their gap up to the front. I don't know what DeLee's doing because he's already got a teammate up the road, which is Maxime Van Gils. So his teammate's up the road. Once again, you got some weird tactics going on. I think a lot of wasted. In the end, DeLee ends up not making it and coming through the field and having a tough time. But first time through these first few gravel sections, Ineos is looking fine. Jonas had his boys. What did I say yesterday? My point yesterday of these 4 top teams, the team that was the one made for this race today was Visa Lisa Bike, right? Their best climbing domestique won Dwars van Vlaarden this year. He's a classics rider. That's Matteo Jorgensen. He's been the one pilot fishing Jonas through the field the last few days. And today he makes his weight in gold again. So Visa's on the front. They're doing great work for Jonas. Tadej's in decent position. On the second time up here, you actually have out of position is Remco. Tadej's team is up here. They're fine. Ineos is looking just fine as well. And you can see down on the bottom right, it looks like it is Remco. No, that's Laporte, I think, up there in the front. So they come through the second section, and it turns into a shit show. They hit this climb. There's some bad sections on the left-hand side. Guys are stopping. They're having to get off their bikes and push, and you can see a bunch of Bora riders here. So Bora was in position on the first section. They were in bad position on the second section, and it got ugly. And who missed out? Well, not Visa Lisa Bike, not the Jayco rider here. I think that's Michael Matthews. Laporte's up there. Roglic is the one missing out, and you do hand Remco, and you also have Tadej up in the front here. There he is. There's Bora's rider, Roglic back there with some teams, but they have about 28 kilometers, I think, from this section, which was, they count them down 14, 13 from 13 to 12. So they do have time to try to catch up, but it's unnecessarily a lot of work that they're going to have to do. And you can see here as they go through the sprint, the intermediate sprint, Roglic himself is on the front driving this thing, and he's at, it says 128 to the yellow. It doesn't say what he is here, but he was, a good little distance off. He does end up rejoining, which makes it a good thing. I'm missing, there we go. Okay, I think some of these are out of place. Let's go here, because 114, and then you got here at about 100 kilometers to go. You can all of a sudden see about 7 or so back. You see looking down, that's Jonas. He's got a flat tire. His teammates immediately pull over. Jan Tratnik is on the side of the road. This is kind of when everyone saw this because he has got the number 1 bike. He traded bikes. So 100 kilometers, and they don't end up trading bikes back again for Jonas. He ends up staying on the bike. He said he got a flat in the last 3 kilometers, but it didn't affect him. He was able to ride that in. Good for them for being ready for this, but this is the kind of bad things that can happen. It happened in an okay spot. It was a super quick change. You ended up seeing Jonas immediately getting himself back up to the field and not too much of a problem. Okay, but before then, 88 kilometers to go. He came over the top of one of these little rises, and Tadej decides he's just going to push forward. And who jumped on his wheel? It's none other than Remco. They do bring that back, so it's not too much of a problem. However, coming into about 75 kilometers to go, Remco decides to hit out, accelerate. I mean, so we're looking at he's trying to duplicate the Strada Bianca thing. You can see Jonas looking over to Matteo and looking over to Laporte, kind of saying, are you going to chase it? I don't know. look, Tade's in second place. I mean, first place. The big, there's 30 seconds between or so. It goes to 33 to Remco, and then another, 115 or so the margin. So you're looking at 30 seconds back to Jonas from Remco. It's not his duty. It's really the duty of Pogačar to take on. And so Tadej comes up here and he decides to get to work and he attacks. And then you have the whole Visa Lisa bike team on the tail doing their work to bring everything back together. Jonas gets up to Tadej. And then Tadej and Jonas and Remco all go together and they start working. Now, what I don't have in here to show is Remco starts to do the washing machine circle with his hand, like, let's work, let's rotate. Tadej comes through, no problem, but Jonas refuses to come through. We've talked about this with the other day when the two of them were off the front on San Lucas climb, Tadej and Jonas, and they're working together. Not right away, but they did end up working together. And then comparing it to the Heiskabel a few years ago, before that, where he, and other times you've seen this situation, where Tadej is willing to work, but Jonas is not. And why? Because if they come back together, as an example, to the finish, Tadej's going to beat him. So it depends on what those situations are. And Jonas always seems to be thinking about these ones. This one was a bit different. You're 75 kilometers out. What is Jonas's biggest strength in this race besides his legs? It's his team. His team is this glue. He's on not his bike, first of all. So he doesn't want to get stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Why am I going to ride 75 kilometers and gain 0 time on these two when I'm already been putting time on the guys behind me? I think Jonas made perfect sense here to not race this one. Once again, he has this, and by the way, you're going to see a little bit later on, if you didn't watch it, but Tadej and Remco both are aggressive the rest of the time. Tadej gets moves, he gets gaps as he's able to do, and he's super strong. But this time, Jonas uses his team to do the right thing. However, they catch up to this group up front, which totally destroys it. And then that group, they see that Jonas and Tadej and Remco are not going to be working. So they start going up the road again. Now, Van Gils is one of the last to kind of react to this, so he gets spit out of this thing. But that group up front gets reduced just a little bit, but it does have Healy, Derek G, Stuyvens, and Healy, who did I say? Pidcock, Turgis, and a few others. They do make it up the road. These three, they sit up, they go back to the group. Now, a little bit after that, you have this wreck over here. Vlasov just kind of hits the side here, goes into the ditch, kind of hits it pretty hard. He's still banged up. And the reason I'm showing this is because I differ from what everyone else is showing online. They saw him do this. They saw him put his leg over. And then they saw him kind of stand up here and like, whoa, what's going on? Everyone's like, it's concussion protocol. He should not be allowed to ride. I saw it a little bit different. I saw him trying to lift his leg and he's completely cut up here. His foot was also off let's see if we can show that here. His foot was also kind of half on the curb. And I just think it wasn't a head thing. It was more of I can't get my legs together. He stood up, kind of got his balance, and then he put his head together in a sense and rode back. So I don't see his helmet dinged up at all. I see his neck. I see his elbows. I see his side. I don't know if he hit his head at all. I didn't think it was concussion protocol thing, but they probably should be going through those efforts. 42 kilometers to go. That group was up the road. They're about minute 23. They have not been, the main group is doing their own thing behind. And finally you get Gourmet's still in there. Matthew Van Der Poel decides to go, and they and a few others, and they head up the road. David Gaudou's in that group. He's not going to help at all, but he's certainly going to try. And Michael Matthews ends up going up there as well. So there's a good group that ends up going up the road, but they don't make enough headway on the front group that they needed to. Now, as far as Jumbo goes, they ride the front great all day. Wout is up there. Laporte does a lot of good work. Matteo Jorgensen is stellar today. We're going to break down one little aspect of him here in a little bit. It was interesting to see that Wout would kind of be there, and then he would kind of get flicked off, and then he would make his way back to the front. He'd do work, and when I saw this, I'm like, yeah, he's not in for the win today. He's just a different Wout. And kind of who replaced him today was Laporte and Matteo Jorgensen. So there you go. The group that goes up the front there, they end up joining up with, I think his name is Reisler for Uno X. Yeah, Matthew Van Der Poel coming up with Gourmet and a few others catching up with Michael Matthews, and they do head out in the rain. All right, 22 kilometers to go. Tadej, he's not done. He makes a really valiant effort through one of these gravel sections here. And you had Laporte, you had Matteo Jorgensen. They're up there. They're ready for the fight. Remco is up there-ish. And also you had Jonas in the mix. But Jonas is able to make the most progress. And immediately Jorgensen goes all the way up to the wheel of Tadej. He's sitting on, and Jonas isn't quite there, but he's getting work with Laporte behind. It looks like there's some radio contact, and Laporte's kind of like, I'm done. It's your turn, Jorgensen. So Matteo drops off of the wheel of Tadej, comes back to Jonas, and then those two, Jonas sits on and Matteo drags him up. Meanwhile, coming from behind, here's another really cool picture of that. You can see the distance here, the gap, and then behind is Laporte, and then a little bit further back is Remco having to do some work, but Jonas just relying on the teammate Matteo Jorgensen. Meanwhile, Tadej ready to just unleash things. Let's go back to this. So this thing comes together, and for a little while, it's Matteo, it's Tadej, and it's Jonas. Okay, and Tadej is doing the work, and he's flicking through, and the other two guys are just not going to do it. They're not going to come through. Now, this was for me as a fan. I'm like, Jonas, Matteo, let's. I mean, you could both rocket yourself. This would put yourself in a position to now play Jorgensen off on the field. You're going to get some time. But the big problem though is what is going on from behind. Now, Remco doesn't have a team, but there's a good chance maybe Remco makes this gap. So I get the whole point of not working, because your strongest suit once again is your team. But from a fan's perspective, and especially an American perspective, this would have been pretty cool to watch today. However, up in the front, Stuyven, Derek G and Healy, they had been making some attempts. Pidcock, Stuyven decides at 11.3 to just go, and he holds a gap up there. The guys from behind, they're still not able to. They cut it kind of in half, but they're still about a minute behind. And then the yellow jersey group is coming in just behind them, starting to make progress. Stuyven, though, it had a nice gap, 4.6. He's still got 7 to go. Tom Pidcock makes a move up the front. He's not able to get it himself, but the group, they do work together and like to bring this Stuyven back. And within a kilometer, they do bring him back. They go right through him. You've got Aaron Baru for Movistar. They had 2 riders up there: Pidcock, Turgis, Derek G, and is Albacini maybe for Astana. I'm not remembering exactly who. He gets off, and it's Derek G, Pidcock, Turgis coming to the line. Turgis gets the win over Pidcock. Where is Ben Healy? He's on the wheel about in 5th or 6th place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he gets a 6th or 5th or 6th today. Good job bringing Pidcock up to the front. In the group behind, Gourmet wins the field sprint, just adding himself to more the green jersey points. He's in there with Rui Costa, Michael Matthews, Matthew van der Poel, the Uno X rider. I'm not sure who is it. Maybe Ackerman and David Gaudu. I'll say this about Benyam Girmay riding in the gravel today. Very impressive. Matter of fact, he has impressed me the last several days. Obviously, his win yesterday, you know, the sprint, the few days before that was pretty impressive. But I found the uphill sprint just marvelous, how silky smooth he was able to do that. And then today, riding in these conditions, doing a really good job, staying up there with the world champ and then taking that. Turgis throws his bike at the finish. And the guys, here's the overhead. You can see that from there. That Turgis does a nice. He's got at least 3/4 of a bike. Derek G once again comes close but doesn't quite have it. There you go. Turgis, Pidcock, Guy, Aramburru, Healy, Lutsenko. That's who was up there with Astana. Sorry about that. Roma was another Movistar guy. Stuyven was up there, and then Gourmet comes in with the next group at 1:17. Tadej keeps the yellow jersey, 33 seconds over Evenepoel, and then 1:15 over Jonas, Roglic. Derek G moves up 5 places to 402, bumping into the top 10 there at 9th place, just ahead of Matteo Jorgensen for his work on the day, getting almost 2 minutes, getting what did we say? 117. I think it was 146 he got on the group. There is your race. What we look like for Tuesday, the profile, 187.3 kilometers. I'm saying it's going to be a sprint day. These guys are having trouble at some point really trying to get up the road. And it appears to me that as far as the brakes go, the brakes have been some weird stuff. Stage 1 you had. So you have 3 French riders now. Turgis, Kevin Vauquelin on stage 2, and on stage 1 you had Romain Bardet, and then you've had almost everyone is a new winner. Biniam Girmay is the only 2-time winner here, or stage winner for this Tour de France so far. Let me take a look over at, let's go to some, okay, I wanted to look at some tour specific things. We've done a few of these here as we through. There's your winner or your stages for the day. Let's see. I wanted to look at hardest climbs. No, teams, mower, start list. You know, they have them in here, and then all of a sudden it's things are gone. There we go. Prize money. Interwanty-Marché, leading the team. Prize money. Let's go by rider. Is it still Taddy in the lead? Nope. Biniam Girmay, 34,800. He's in the lead. 28,080 to Taddy. So Interwanty-Marché is leading the pack quite nicely because he's got 2 stage wins. Him being Biniam has 2 stage wins, and he's leading the green jersey. So he's winning money along the day, every day for that as well. So Interwanty-Marché, they've already got 43,000. You know, we'll see what that is when they come to the final and see how well things are actually doing. Okay, what I want to look at, one other item here, which was let's go to TSOT timing. Then we're going to look at the report, see if anybody was in trouble today, because we saw that the other day we did the report and it was Julien Bernard got in trouble for his not seeing his wife and stuff at the finish. That was today's race. Let's go down here to reports. Okay. Stage 10. Here we go. Press release. I popped it up into a new window. Hang on, folks. It's about as good as we get. Okay, so here you go. That gives a lot of the stuff today. There's the photo finish, nicely done. A lot of the results, that's fine. We'll skip through that. We already talked about the results. Let's get into the report. Okay. There we go. For stage 10, feeding will be open from 10 kilometer 20 and will be closed at 15 kilometers from the finish. Okay. As part of the fight against technological fraud, 31 bikes X-rayed were checked today. All bikes complied with UCI regulations. That's it. Oh, Vlasov, just a medical communique. Nothing else. So there was, looks like everything else was in order. No one else really got too much trouble. This is just a breakdown of some things coming up along the way. There you go. All right. Let me see. I have a few notes here. Lotto. Why is Deli wasting his time? His teammates chasing each other down. EF does some of the same. Paulus was dragging Pidcock to the front group, which seemed nonsensical. Yeah, he almost won. He got second place today, and he almost wins. So, I mean, I know it's a risk. You've got to put yourself in there, but does this really bode? Are you really ever going to be in Ben Healy, outdo Pidcock? Probably not. Bora fails Roglic for the second sector. Remco not happy his team didn't get him to the front for later sectors. Bora did a good job getting Roglic into the first one. So, watching some of the interviews, here's what it is. Remco says sometimes you need balls to win, and maybe Jonas just doesn't have him. Other people call him a coward. I think he was tactically spot on today. You're going to win this thing, not today, and you're going to win it later on. And we've seen with a few years ago, the first time that Jonas won this, which is, it looked like Tadej was running away from it. He's clipping off time bonus here, time bonus there, beating Michael Matthews in an uphill sprint, beating Wout in an uphill sprint. And you're like, there you go. But it chipped into his legs. And last week, he was really suffering. So you saw him putting in a lot of work today. You saw Jonas being able to respond. I mean, at one point, the time he had one of the most trouble where he had to really rely on Laporte and then Jorgensen to get him up there. You can see his wheels were spinning in the gravel. He was having a hard time connecting, and that would look to me more the trouble than his legs, because he was able to respond to everything. So with that in mind, I think he did the perfect thing, allowing his team to be the most support, which to me, they were the most powerful team out there today. Tadej was the most powerful rider, but you can only do so much, and he tried, but it didn't work out for him to try to do his 80-kilometer Strada Bianchi type of move. Sure, he might have been disappointed, but I think a lot of it is big talk too. Remco's making talk. He's making talk too. Like, oh, they're only watching me. But in the end, you got to do what you got to do. And if Jonas hadn't have won 2 tours, the last 2 tours, he's been in top 3 in the Vuelta last year, and winning them the way he does, maybe this chit chat, online or in the media works. It's not going to work with Jonas. He's going to ride his race. He's going to do what's best for him, and he's a smart rider. And I think it may not be as exciting as we want, but in the end, he needs to do that to make it work. Tadej needs to do what he was doing today. Maybe cool your jets a little bit though. You don't have to be doing this. And I think it may come back to haunt him. Let's look at the top 4 and see how they really fared today. Tadej, super strong, put everyone in trouble, but didn't make any gains on it because in the end, Felix Gall, as an example, was off the back a bunch of times. He got the same time as them today. So nothing happened because you weren't able to stick it. Why? Because Jonas was like, I'm not going there. And, you were dumping your team at some points, you being Tadej. His team wasn't quite as good. The team of Visma, Lisa Bike with Jonas, they were superb. I can't say enough about Matteo Jorgensen today, the way he rode, the little things there, like, should you be on the wheel of Tadej when Jonas is right there? But they worked that out, and he saved him over and over and over, perfectly fine. Remco shows he is up there. And, there was one of the interviews saying, hey, your positioning doesn't, and he's like, he threw his team under the bus. He said, I told them to get me in position. Sometimes you have to do that, and they just didn't do it. And he was like kind of ballsy about it. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? He's going to stir the pot just enough. They're probably going to get their act together, but they're not a super strong team. So they might have been doing just as much as they could do. I mean, he's got he did come off the back of one time there, and he was trying to connect, and they had Landa up the front, and it's like he's not going to help them really. So you just kind of sit there and let him come to you. So it's what it is. Or maybe that was yesterday's race. I'm trying to remember. I think that was today, but there was a time there where you're not going to send Landa back to do the work to get him up because it doesn't make sense. And Remco rides faster than anybody. So, but then you have Primoz. Good position in the first time, not good. Otherwise he was super quiet. Other than the one time where he had to chase and he did connect, he was super quiet. His team did okay. They had that Vlasov issue. But other than that, there wasn't any, the only mechanical you saw there was Jonas. His team was on it. They resolved it. Once again, I think the breakdown from this is keep and continue to do the gravel racing, maybe skip out on the Paris-Roubaix, the cobbles, and do this instead. I think it's not as detrimental, but it's just as exciting. So, let's keep that in mind. We're going to see on the stage 10, it's going to be a sprinters. They all want to do it. You're going to probably see Girmay. It's got to be Philipsen. You've got to say Philipsen because his team needs to get their act together. There's 2 riders that are just not quite as tip-top as they were. 3 riders. One is Philipsen. The other one is Matthew van der Poel, who was leading him out incredibly last year. Remember, he got the flat tire, I think that was the flat tire on the first sprint stage. The second one, he was hardly useful at all. The third time they had to be able to sprint, he was much better. But that's where Philipsen got DQ'd, still wasn't able to come over the top. And so, he needs to get his act together. And then Wout just isn't where he was last year either. So those are 3 riders that are kind of interesting. You would expect Wout might have had a day today, but it's all in for Jonas. It is completely all in for Jonas. You saw that yesterday with the way Wout rode. You saw it today for the way he rode as well. And why not? I think Jonas is looking good. And for me personally, you've got 4 riders that we expected to do really well coming in here, all doing kind of what we looked like. I mean, Roglic is a little off, but he's still there. Remco's doing Remco stuff. It's his, first Tour de France. He's maybe a little overexcited today. Jonas is a little off from the crash, but he's also, creeping his way into this. And then you got Tadej being Tadej. And personally, I'm having a great time. I'm loving the whole thing. And the more we do, the better. So there you go. Have a good rest day, everybody. We will see you here on Tuesday, unless I decide to do something tomorrow. I don't know why I would. Other than that, like the show, share it around, and keep us growing. That's all I can really say. Other than that, take care, everybody.